When you take that time in that 4 days to just follow the program, it allows you to get back in touch with that inner voice that is telling you exactly what it needs, exactly when it needs it in order to work perfectly. And when the body works perfectly, all it does is heal.
Welcome back, everyone, to Facing Forward. I'm your host, Kara Ladd, and today I am pumped to be joined by Lindsey Wilson, the founder of OWL Venice, a namesake broth and holistic lifestyle brand based out of Venice, California. If you don't, run there immediately. It's currently stocked in my fridge right now, and if you follow me on Instagram, how much I love a good broth. They are just so deeply nourishing, and honestly, so was this convo for me. In this episode, we dive into the foundations of OWL Venice, Lindsey's journey to starting this brand, why broths and why they play such a critical role in healing. Lindsey also shares her expertise on really fascinating notions like gaps, the connection between gut health and psychology, and also chronobiology, which is so interesting. It's how to optimize what we eat based on the time of day. She'll explain it a lot better. As a conscious business owner, Lindsey also opens up about her personal rituals and the practices that keep her grounded while building this thriving brand. This conversation was really lovely. It filled me up from the inside out, truly. I hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, here is Lindsey Wilson from OWL Venice. This episode of Facing Forward is sponsored by Aura Wellness. Now, if you know me, you know I'm a big proponent of vitamin drips or IVs. I get them often when I'm traveling or when I get sick to just bounce back faster. And one of my go-tos is a glutathione booster, which is essentially like liquid gold for your body. It's a powerful antioxidant. It's a detoxifier. It's a beauty booster. It's essentially your body's first line of defense in fighting free radicals, which causes inflammation and disease and aging skin, etc. But these IVs can be super expensive and they aren't accessible everywhere. And that's why I'm so pumped about Aura Wellness's glutathione spray. It's called Glutarol. And I'm dubbing this product the golden girl of the glutathione movement. I've been using the spray on the inside of my elbow first thing in the morning and evening. It has like a slight sulfur-like scent to it, and it could be slightly sticky at first, but bear with me, it goes away. And the results are worth it. And it's just been overall so much more convenient than, running to get a booster, and more impactful because I'm using it daily. And not to mention the entire bottle costs the same as one of my drips. Overall, I would say the biggest shift has been in my energy levels. My energy has just felt more sustainable. I found myself saying I'm tired a lot less, which I'm guilty of. And also feel like my skin is going through a deep rejuvenation period. I've noticed my skin looking a lot brighter, but most importantly, my skin barrier stronger. People in the beauty and wellness space actually call this the glutathione glow because it's that good. Of course, Aura Wellness uses the highest quality ingredients, so you can trust that you're putting only the best on your body, which is very important to me. I'm just really excited for everyone to check this brand and product out. It is really making waves in the health and wellness space. You can use the code Kara Ladd, that's capital KARALADD, to get 10% off any Aura Wellness product. And don't forget to tag me at Kara Ladd on Instagram if you store your post. You all know I am a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur. I am a writer, speaker, strategist. I'm now building out a conscious retail concept. And I would not be able to do this podcast without my production partner, New Edition Consulting. New Edition Consulting is a boutique content marketing agency that partners with thought leaders and brands looking to launch, maintain, grow, and monetize their content marketing efforts. Simply put, every brand today is in the business of deepening their connection with their community. And an intentional, consistent stream of content, whether that be a podcast, a newsletter, or on-brand social media campaign, the content is the spine that holds this effort together. New Edition provides one-on-one, end-to-end, 360-degree content marketing support to all of their talented clients that have packed schedules like mine. Think of New Edition as your accountability partner, your content strategist, growth marketer, and admin, all rolled up into one. If you have been looking to launch or up-level your podcast, newsletter, blog, or social media, but simply haven't had the time, tools, or support, head to neweditionconsulting.co to book a free exploratory call with their team. I genuinely could not recommend them enough. And this podcast, again, would not be possible without them.
Thank you so, so much for being here. I feel like this was meant to be, because before we were talking all about just the synchronicities and everything that has just been flowing, I feel like your energy has been in my orbit and vice versa. So I am so thrilled that you are here.
Thank you. Same.
So we typically start off these conversations talking about catalytic moments, like points of inflection in someone's personal and professional life that really led them to the work they put out into the world today. So tell us a little bit about what your journey was like pre-OWL Venice and what really inspired you to launch this beautiful brand out into the world.
Yeah. So pre-owl, I feel like I had many lifetimes before this, but back in 2010, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was just graduated from college and living in Chicago. And for me, that was a big turning point because my mom was like the epitome of health in my mind. She was a dietitian, and I was like 21 years old and living on Diet Coke and Cheez-It. So it was a pretty big wake up call for me that if that could happen to my mom, then I better start making better choices or I'm going to end up there too. So that really kickstarted my interest in health and food as preventative medicine. And I just started like exploring all different kinds of diets, like tried vegan, vegetarianism, and at the time, and especially considering where I was in Chicago, it was like nobody was doing that at the time. And that really, I think, drove me out of Chicago and pushed me into California and Venice, where I really found my people and my community like in the wellness space. And I feel like that was like the first really like inflection moment. And then later on, like right before starting OWL, even though I ate really healthy, all organic, I was still getting like sick all the time and just had a very weakened immune system and hadn't really connected the dots yet of like where the root of the issue was. But I was literally at Tom's coffee shop on Abbot Kinney, and I walked up to a friend who was sitting with an intuitive healer of sorts who told me I had leaky gut. And so it wasn't by any means an official diagnosis, but it was that point where I was like, maybe this is where it's all connecting for me. It was like the first time I ever thought about how things could be connected to my gut health.
Yeah, you mentioned GAPS actually in your bio, the gut and psychology diet. I've never heard about that, but there's obviously so much interconnectivity with our gut, especially right now. You're hearing so much information, a lot of noise, honestly, about how your microbiome is connected to your immune system, connected to your skin and everything. Can you dive a little bit deeper into GAPS in particularly?
Yeah. Gut and psychology syndrome is basically like exactly that, like the idea that our gut is our second brain and so much of our serotonin is located in the gut, and it can be like the cause of so many different like autoimmune conditions. And really like the diet focuses on nutrient dense foods, bone broths and organ meats and fermented foods, and really restoring balance to the microbiome in order to heal some of those chronic conditions.
So tell us a little bit about OWL and like what OWL Venice is all about and why broth.
Yeah, so through all of my research of gut health, once I heard I had leaky gut, it was like, okay, how do I heal this naturally? And I started researching all different kinds of gut healing protocols. GAPS came up, low FODMAP, AIP, anti-inflammatory diet. And so pretty much everywhere I looked, bone broth kept coming up across all of these different diets. I was doing a lot of research on Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, and like again and again, bone broth kept coming up. So I was like, okay, I want to try bone broth. But when I went looking for broth, every broth had the same 5 ingredients: garlic, onions, carrots, celery, maybe parsley. And the other thing was there was so many lists of foods I shouldn't be eating according to all of these different diets, and garlic and onions or alliums were 2 of them. And I was like, okay, how come bone broth that's supposed to be so good for the gut, every one has 2 ingredients in it that I can't eat? So that's really what pushed me to start making my own. And so we really were like the first people to do bone broth, like really specifically for people with gut health. So we follow a low FODMAP recipe where we put our bones in frozen, and we don't have allergens like garlic and onions in our recipes. And instead, we infuse them with herbs, roots, and vegetables. So we use ginger and turmeric in place of the garlic and onions, which have more anti inflammatory properties. And for me, I was like very inspired by the healing powers of the herbs and felt almost like the broth, thought of the broth almost as more of a vehicle for those herbs.
I love that. That's beautiful. And just to break it down, like the basics, you said the 2 ingredients, you refer to them as something that actually I don't know the characteristic that you were describing them as. EMs or alliums? What?
Yeah. So like garlic, onion, scallions, they can irritate the gut for people that have like gut issues.
Okay, got it. And then for basics also.
In Ayurveda, they're considered more of a medicine than a food.
Interesting. Interesting. So,
Yeah.
but you didn't want them in your diet.
I was like, just according to all these different, pretty much eliminating any possible gut irritants. So for me, that was like cruciferous vegetables, alliums like garlic and onions, nightshade, potatoes and peppers and things like that. And I was doing a very gut nourishing diet, like mostly like cooked vegetables and broths and like meat and all of the foods that you'll see on our approved food list when you do the reset, really.
Right, which is so helpful. And I did it right before my wedding, and it was unbelievable. I feel like I was traveling for several months, and I feel like I was eating out so much more than usual. And I feel like I was a test bunny for this retail concept that I'm launching next year, because it's like, whoa, I put my body through the ringer, and you don't really realize preservatives and the ingredients, like how clean you eat when you're eating at home. And I feel like your reset really, I was like, oh, like there she is. There's like my soul. Like I can feel my body again. Like I felt more intuitively in sync with the physical realm within me and around me. Talk to
Yeah.
me more about the reset and like what the foundation is.
Yeah. So the foundation was initially just, I was so inspired by the idea of how a liquid diet could expedite the healing process. Because for me, healing my gut was a slow process. And I had been diligent about the broth for a few months and I'd seen a lot of progress, but I was like really wanting a deeper experience. So I basically took the limited list of ingredients I was working with from following all of these different gut healing protocols all at once, because I didn't just pick one. I pretty much tried to follow all of them at the same time. So I had a very limited list of ingredients that I was working with, which inspired the 3 different shakes that are part of the reset program: the magic matcha, golden ginger, and bold beet. I wanted something really like fun, colorful, no sugars, but still all that protein and like nutrients that you get from having the whole fruits and vegetables in the drinks. And I paired them with a different broth to drink morning, noon, and nights. And through doing the reset myself and learning more about what I was creating, which was just very in the moment, didn't just came out of me. I feel like I came to understand and believe that the body works perfectly when we eat when we're hungry, we drink when we're thirsty, and we sleep when we're tired. And I think in understanding that, it became less about the reset itself and the specific ingredients, although they were all like very intentionally selected and
all like very gut nourishing, nutrient dense ingredients that we chose to put in the reset. But really, exactly what you're saying is when you take that time in that 4 days to just follow the program, it allows you to get back in touch with that inner voice that is telling you exactly what it needs, exactly when it needs it in order to work perfectly. And when the body works perfectly, all it does is heal.
100%. And I feel like there are so many different layers to the reset that I didn't even realize. Like, I was diving deeper into your site and I saw crone biology and I was like, this is fascinating and makes so much sense. I've never even heard this word
Yeah.
before. So please describe it and how it's interwoven within the reset and all that you do.
Yeah, chronobiology was something that I learned about really just after creating the reset. And in learning about it, I just reorganized the order of the shakes based on chronobiology. But what I loved about it was that after months of following like such a limited list of ingredients and feeling so restrictive, what chronobiology did was it just opened up the doors and allowed me to focus on what I could have instead of what I couldn't have. And so I still use chronobiology as a guide in that way because it does focus so much on like whole foods and just like what you can have. It's not like a list of, oh, I can't have this or I can't have that. It's more, okay, it's morning time. Here's all of the things that you can have. Or it's like bit more based on, so it's basically the thought that it's not necessarily what you eat, but when. And it's the idea it's based on Chinese medicine, really, and when the plants are open to receiving information from the sun is when they have the most bioelectric or energy and when they're going to be most bioavailable to the body, when they have the most electromagnetic energy and when they're the most bioavailable to the body. Um,
Which makes so much
yeah, it does because it basically, when you're waking up in the morning and the sun is rising, we're looking to get quick energy and like cleanse and get our day started. So you're going to reach for sun ripened fruits and nuts, which is where the sun is hitting the trees in the morning. And then during the daytime, the peak hours of the day is when our digestive fire is at its peak. It's when we're working and we need more like building energy. So that's when we eat things that grow above the ground when the sun is above the ground. So, like land grazing animals, grains, beans, cruciferous vegetables. So, all things that are harder to break down at the time where we have the most digestive fire to break those things down and when we need the most sustained energy to get us through the day. And then nighttime when the sun is setting, eating things that grow under the ground or in the water. Eggs are like also an example of a nighttime food or mushroom. It's when they are generating energy like without the sun or at night. So root vegetables, fish, things like that at night that you would typically like gather around the fire and heat up around the fire.
And this makes so much sense just to like it's similar to like our circadian rhythms. It's like following
Exactly. It is
like
exactly that, and keeping your body on its natural circadian rhythms. It, like, has other names for it, but, like, solar nutrition, yeah, working with the phases of the sun and the moon and
and it makes so much sense. It's like bringing us back to this like authentic truth that's within us, like all the cycles that already lie within us and around us. It's just like reconnecting us with that truth. And I feel like what I love most about the reset is it's a cleanse, but it's a very nourishing cleanse. And I think that's something
yeah.
to really drive home. And you can pair it with food, which is what I did throughout. I like needed all the nutrition actually before my wedding and after traveling for 4 months. And I was like, it was the most nourishing cleanse for my body. So if you're afraid of the word cleanse, it's not like you are starving day in and day out. Like I felt so
Yeah.
nourished and so full. And I think
Yeah.
that's what bone broth is all about.
Yeah, and it would be my preference that we'd never have to use the word cleanse, which is why we called it a reset. But
Mm.
for SEO reasons, like we have to in order to reach people that are looking for us. But I feel like cleanse like implies somehow that we're like not clean to begin with. But
Right.
again, the body is like healing itself all of the time, and we are so perfect by design, but every now and then, like, we do need, like, a reset to step back and find balance again. I think the reset allows you to really do that. It's like an opportunity or permission slip to really just take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And I feel like, at this day and age, unfortunately, like our bodies are miraculous vehicles that can and will heal if you put it in the right environment and eat with intention to do the right things. However, I think we are exposed to so many environmental toxins and heavy metals. And, there's so many things that this reset actually, I feel like should be a regular rotating. It needs to be in my quarterly nutrition.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
exactly how often we recommend is seasonally.
yeah.
Yeah.
That feels so good to me. Okay, so you do it
Mhm.
quarterly as well.
I'm getting back into doing it quarterly. I didn't for a few years because I had 2 kids. So, I was much more just, like, weaving it into my routine, which has really inspired some of our new programs that we're about to launch, which are more maintenance programs. But yeah, my kids drink the broth. I make their rice with it every week and they love that. So they don't drink it on its own, but finding ways to sneak it in for them. And then for me, like the broth has been a huge staple for me through my pregnancies. And then now, especially with like my kids at school and getting sick all the time, like they are now, like they'll all go down and I won't because I'm just like consistent with that. But getting back into doing the resets more for sure.
Yeah, we're a big broth home over here. We have broth. We're right down the street from Springbone. We have to get OWL Venice here sooner or later. But we're right down the street
Yeah.
from Springbone, and I feel like we get it all too often. But it's just like
I'm trying to talk to Grassroots, which is near you, right? The juice.
they're in Williamsburg. They're a little bit farther out, but we'll get you in Dumbo. We'll chat.
Okay. All right.
Really bad. But I do want to chat a little bit more about bone broth in particular and like why broth and like really what are like the core benefits behind it because I'm still
Mhm.
understanding myself. Like I'm plant forward and I primarily eat vegan. However, I do have meat, but I like am curious what the benefit is between vegan and chicken and beef. It seems like the chicken and beef would be like more nutrient dense. No.
Yeah, the vegans have more of the alkalizing and immune boosting properties, and they still have a bouquet of herbs, and there's a lot of benefit there. But the broths are going to have more of the collagen, branched chain amino acids, glycine, and really like the building blocks for strong, healthy nails, skin, joints, bones. And what's unique about the bone broth is it really mimics that lining of the gut wall, the mucosal lining. And a lot of times when we crave dairy or bread, like really what our body is craving is like that mucosal lining. And we're like looking for it in ways that don't necessarily like help that. But that's why drinking the bone broth can be so helpful for curbing those cravings because it really gives your body like what you need. Yeah.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah, because I felt so nourished when I was drinking it and when I do drink it ongoing. Like I said, I have it probably twice a week. And so that really,
Yeah, for me, like switching it out, for me, having it as my nighttime routine was super powerful with that because that's when I always got like late night cravings. And for me, that's always like my downfall when I feel like I'm holding on to extra weight or have more like inflammation. It always is from eating at night, like right before bed, that my body is just like not able to metabolize things right. So when I started switching that out and having a cup of broth before bed, it was like I didn't get those cravings anymore, and that was really helpful for me.
yeah, it makes you feel so full. I'm curious now what your routines are, your morning and evening routines.
My morning routine is not quite a routine. My kids are, like, waking up at 5 a.m. every day. My friend, like, sent me a homeopathic thing to give them that was supposed to, like, help them sleep another hour, but instead they started waking up at 4 a.m., so I stopped that. My kids are very early risers, so my morning routine is, like, just not there, except for that I do have coffee every morning.
Being with,
Yeah, but my evening routine, my kids go to bed at 7:30, so that's, like, for me where the secret sauce is now, and I'll have, like, my tea or my broth at night. A lot of times I'll take a bath, I do my skincare routine, have a little time to, like, stretch, get into my body,
breathe, I'll either read a book or watch a show. Like I'm usually in my bedroom, like doing my wind down routine from 7:30 to 9:30, like every night.
And
So yeah, that's my like me time
yeah, I
per
feel like
se.
kids obviously change everything, and
Yeah.
it
I like to do the gua sha, like dry brushing and all that stuff at night now because it's just like when I can fit it in.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all the rituals. Or you could just get really savvy and you do it while holding a baby. How old are they, by the way?
My kids are 2 and 3.
2 and 3, and they're having bone broth regularly.
I make a chicken congee basically with the broth like every week. So I'll use like boneless, skinless chicken thighs, rice, the broth, and like butter, and that's it. And make them like a little congee.
Beautiful. And you mentioned the intersection of kind of, we basically touched on this, very briefly touched on this. OWL Venice has a skincare line. And I think this is such a beautiful extension to your brand and what you were just talking about with your routines and everything, because we don't really think about the interconnectivity with our gut and our skin. I think now it's being talked about a little bit more, but it was really interesting for me recently. I was off my seed prebiotic for 2 weeks, and I saw my skin like really change actually in those 2 weeks, which was a signpost for me that I was like, something is imbalanced internally, and that is masking something. So I'm diving deeper into that. But I would love to
Hmm.
learn like what really was the inspiration behind launching that, and tell us a little bit more just about the skincare line overall.
Yeah. So a fun fact is that actually I launched Aloe Venice as a skincare line initially
Oh my God.
before I ever did the bone broth. Yeah. Back in like 2014, I think. I had just come off birth control and after 10 years on birth control and started getting really bad adult like onset acne and like very hormonal, like around my chin, jawline. And I'd never dealt with anything like that before, really. And it was awful. And my mom had told me that her friend's daughter had the same thing happen and found oil cleansing and started oil cleansing and it helped clear up her skin. So I started out like with coconut oil and it helped like a little bit initially, but then over time it was like too comedogenic for my skin. It was like clogging my pores. And so I started doing more research about different types of oils and that started playing around and making the owl skincare products back then. And like the moon wash that I created, and I use that every day on my face for the last 10 plus years now. It completely changed my skin without even doing the internal work at that time. Like it completely cleared up my skin, switching to oil cleansing. I haven't washed my face with water and cleanser in over a decade now since making that switch. So yeah, it never took off. Like I launched Aloe Venice as a skincare line and had it all up. And I think I got 3 orders from friends and family. And over the course of a year, it was like pushing a boulder up a hill, trying to explain to people what oil cleansing is. And then I started doing the broth and that like just caught on quick. And so I basically scrubbed the site, took the skincare down, put up the broth, already had like, the framework there, switched out the photos and then years later I introduced the skincare just because I was still using it personally and benefiting it and figured why not.
There's a through line. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so
Yeah.
much sense. It's funny.
Yeah, there is.
Like our body knows. Isn't that so interesting? Like it just always happens like in retrospect, I'm like, oh, that's why I was in sustainable fashion consulting. Oh, that's why I crossed paths with this person. It's so like
Mhm.
there's this beautiful spiritual through line. I think it's just this dance with fate and free will. It's like your body was like pushing you in that direction, but the broths weren't able to be like birthed yet.
1,000%. Yeah. Like the interest for me was always there in creating things like, yeah.
How do you keep creatively inspired? And as an entrepreneur, especially as a founder of a business, it can get so lonely and just so challenging sometimes. Like you said, like pushing a boulder up a hill. Like, how do you keep the spark of the business alive? Like, how do you stay creatively inspired?
Yeah, I think at different times it looks differently. Like for me this last year, it was like problems and pressure like pushed me into innovation and change. In the past, it has felt easier than that, like easier to find inspiration, just taking that time and space to get out of my world. Right now, I'm so in my world that I feel like it took like that, the problems and pressure to really push me into that space. And I got there, but it wasn't without really like the universe like pushing me there forcefully. So I guess it just depends on like the phase. But for me, in order to like stay inspired and connected to my purpose, like I have to be fueled by passion. And that comes from innovation for me. Like once things feel like old and stale, I need to find something that's going to keep me inspired and lit up. And I think that's like what happened this year was just like a lot of the same like ways of doing things not working anymore and being pushed to find a new way forward. And then once I was like stopped resisting trying to make the old way continue to work, started thinking differently, then it's like when new ideas come, that like always inspires me to keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I feel like I love the quote, like pressure is a privilege and no pressure makes diamond. But I feel like that also makes me think that I have to be in the weeds and I have to push more and I have to force more. Almost when it's like actually when you take the time to zoom out and get out of the weeds, like that's what I'm personally focusing on right now at the end of the year, like looking to 2025, like how can I really zoom out and build, like take a bird's eye view now of everything. And that's really
Yeah. You have to step away from the pressure and the problems in order to see the solution. Like, and I think that's where I was fighting and wanting to stick in it. And eventually I had to just be like, I like can't control this and step away. And then that's like always, it's like that moment in Shavasana where you get like the brilliant idea popping into your head. It's like you do have to step away. It's just, yeah, like for me, it took me a bit this year to let go of that grip that I was trying to like hold on to so hard of control.
Yeah, which is so relevant with the astrological shift with Pluto and Capricorn and moving into Aquarius, right? It's like all about control and like reclaiming our own inner power and everything. You're touching on like spiritual practices that are helping you let go. Do you have any in your toolkit right now that are like really supportive and resonating with you?
I guess for me, it's just like the micro moments right now because I can't always do the thing that I want to do with kids, but just like finding time, slip away and take time off for me. Like I love going on walks to clear my head. I've been able to get back into a couple of yoga classes in the last couple weeks and just like those small, like micro moments in my day where I'm able to get that time. And then I think it's more just like for me right now, like mentally trying to really separate my work life from my home life, from my, me time and trying to put everything in bucket and not be like so consumed by work when I'm with my kid or vice versa. And that will allow me to like when I be fully present with my kids or be fully present with my work and not have the crossover, then like things are more like I'm more of a clear channel for the time and place where I'm at.
Yeah. Amen. I feel like I'm all about the micro moments right now too, because I like look at my schedule this week and I'm like to back and like, okay, how can I make a juice, but like connect so intentionally to the celery and the kale? This sounds a little woo, but it's like, how can I like infuse intention into every single thing that I'm doing? And that's really when you become the most clear and connected. It's just like that intentionality. You can honestly get the same results, in my opinion, from an hour-long yoga class or an hour-long walk in, like, a shorter period of time. If you are just, like, not on your phone and you're fully in your body, like, you're connecting to that ritual or that routine that actually becomes a ritual because you're connecting to it with such intention. And I feel like that intentionality is something I'm just deeply resonates with me. I feel like a big part of my work,
Yeah.
like, the magic in the mundane, like, it doesn't need to be these far off things. And I feel like your work rooting in broths, rooting in food and like that nourishment. Like the simple magic of that is the most healing and powerful thing of all.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I try to have one day a week too where like I don't take any calls or meetings and I can just have one day where I can get into a flow with my work because when there's calls and meetings, the interruptions make it really hard for anything to really flow and come through.
Yeah.
And same thing with my kids. I try to have one day where I'm like, we're just home and we're like, don't have any plans or nothing to do and I'm not on my phone. So for like family life and for work life, having one day a week for each to just have space for something to come through.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I actually just posted about this online today because I only take calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's had to change obviously a little bit now, but it's like I'm pretty back to back on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's the only way I've been able to actually get work done and move the needle. It's because I'm consistently interrupted with calls if I'm working on a consulting project or working on an investment deck or something like that. Like so many different parts of my brain. I love these different, I have to compartmentalize. And that's something that's really worked.
Yeah.
You take one day a week, like take us through maybe a week in your life. Cause I feel like you have
Yeah.
practices and some like methodologies in place that would be really supportive.
I have like I'm switching things a little bit right now, but it's been for a little while now. On Mondays, I take meetings. Like I go into the office and I have my meeting with my team, and then I'll have meetings through the rest of the day. And on Tuesday is like my day that I work from home, but I have calls like stacked all day, but I'm able to like in between throw on a load of laundry or clean up the house and be rooted in my environment. And then Wednesday is my day to work from home, but I have like the whole morning to film stuff if I need to. So I like don't have recordings and like that day dad takes the kids to school. So I like stay home, get ready, like slowly work into like maybe doing something on camera. And then I have like one standing afternoon meeting on Wednesdays. And then I pick up my kids from school. And that's like the night that I make their like chicken and bone broth thing to have throughout the rest of the week. And then on Thursdays is usually my day that I try to go to Soho House in Malibu and have my like work day where I have no calls, no meetings, no interruptions. And I have our nanny on that day too. So I'm able to go after work, like do something fun, connect with girlfriends on that day. So that's like a big me day before the end of the week, which seems nice. And then Friday is usually kind of like a wild card, depending on the day.
Yeah. Interesting because my schedule is literally that mirroring. It's really wild. And I feel like
Yeah.
people that work in quote unquote the conscious space or the spiritual space, I didn't know this when I first started doing this structure, but how every day of the week is ruled by a planet, Monday being the moon, Tuesday, Mars, Wednesday, Mercury, Thursday, Jupiter, Friday, Venus. And when you look at your schedule and mine too, it's like I do all my admin, my legal, my meetings, like some of the biggest stuff you organize on Monday. Tuesday is like your power day where you're like have like back-to-back calls or back-to-back meetings. Wednesday, communication with Mercury, where it's like the same thing for me.
Wow, I'm getting chills. I'm sweaty.
Yes. And then
Yeah.
Thursday is Jupiter. So it's a great day to get outside because you never know what like synchronistic moments are going to happen, who you're going to meet. You want to be like in the orbit of just like your life and where you live and like out in the world. And then Friday is Venus day where you leave it up. Okay, like how can I fill my cup so I can overflow throughout the weekend? And Saturday is actually Saturn, which is like a day of discipline and responsibility, which is interesting. And then Sunday is like the self-expression, like a day, again, filling your cup and just like bringing your brightest self. But it's very interesting.
Wow.
You're so intuitively connected to that. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like impressed with myself. Thank you.
I mean, when you're juggling that many different
Oh,
things,
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, things really shifted for me once I did that. Like, I got to a point this year, I was like, this is insane. I have like calls every single day. I can't get anything done. Like, once I made that change, it was huge for me. And just like, even like feeling good throughout the week and not like irritated with, because I'm not a big call person. So, like, if I know it's coming, I can power through it. But having it all throughout the week, like, it just really throws me off.
Yeah, same. I feel like when you're a highly sensitive person or a sensitive person energetically, it just like whiplashes our energy. And so I was now I need to, and we're all ADD to a certain extent now, because of just our phone
I'm sure.
and life in general. And so this is a way that I've been able just to compartmentalize everything and also kind of living by my Google Calendar and like inputting different slots.
Oh, yes, I live by my Google Calendar too.
Yeah, and I pencil in walks, which I think for me is, one of the most underrated self-care. Like,
Oh, yeah, walks are, like, where it's at for sure. I try to take my calls walking when I can, and yeah, walking every day is important for me to, like, clear my head.
yeah, walking meetings is a new thing, and, like, again, connecting to those micro moments has just been so huge, so I love that. This episode of Facing Forward is sponsored by Aura Wellness. Now, if you know me, you know I'm a big proponent of vitamin drips or IVs. I get them often when I'm traveling or when I get sick to just bounce back faster. And one of my go-tos is a glutathione booster, which is essentially like liquid gold for your body. It's a powerful antioxidant, it's a detoxifier, it's a beauty booster. It's essentially your body's first line of defense in fighting free radicals, which causes inflammation and disease and aging skin, etc. But these IVs can be super expensive and they aren't accessible everywhere. And that's why I'm so pumped about Aura Wellness's glutathione spray. It's called Glutarol. And I'm dubbing this product the golden girl of the glutathione movement. I've been using the spray on the inside of my elbow first thing in the morning and evening. It has like a slight sulfur-like scent to it, and it could be slightly sticky at first, but bear with me, it goes away. And the results are worth it. And it's just been overall so much more convenient than, running to get a booster and more impactful because I'm using it daily. And not to mention the entire bottle costs the same as one of my drips. Overall, I would say the biggest shift has been in my energy levels. My energy has just felt more sustainable. I found myself saying I'm tired a lot less, which I'm guilty of. And also feel like my skin is going through a deep rejuvenation period. I've noticed my skin looking a lot brighter, but most importantly, my skin barrier stronger. People in the beauty and wellness space actually call this the glutathione glow because it's that good. Of course, Aura Wellness uses the highest quality ingredients, so you can trust that you're putting only the best on your body, which is very important to me. I'm just really excited for everyone to check this brand and product out. It is really making waves in the health and wellness space. You can use the code KARALAD, that's capital KARALADD, to get 10% off any Aura Wellness product. And don't forget to tag me at KaraLad on Instagram if you store your posts. Okay, so do you have anything else to share about what's in the works with OWL Venice? Any other things in regards to the broths or the reset or the program that you want to share?
Yeah, I guess for me, like when I was talking earlier about the innovation, like there was definitely an aha moment for me with like, how do we meet people where they're at? Because with the 4-day reset, I feel like during COVID, when people were at home and not traveling a lot, it was just like made so much more sense. But with people getting out into the world more, I feel like there's more need programs that just fit into people's lives more without them having to like make any kind of special arrangements. So we are about to launch like 10 new programs ranging anywhere from 2 to 30 days. Some are, all liquid, and others are more of like these maintenance programs that we're talking about. But we have a week long liver program, a week long gut program, a week long yeast buster, like a candida program. We have a 30-day maintenance program coming out, a 30-day coffee detox, like using our matcha and our magic matcha shakes and our new liver boost. So like fun ways to really like incorporate the shakes and our supplements. And I feel like we've just created something for everybody, depending like what your price point is, like what your lifestyle, what your goals are. And all of the programs are coming with coaching sessions and ebooks and so much like great information and education with that. So I'm really excited about that because we've been working like the last few months on
putting together all of the materials for each of these programs and like really carefully thinking through like each of them, making sure that they're like, really going to add a lot of value to people's lives. So I'm excited to launch and see the response there. And moving into next year, like starting to innovate and create new shakes so that we can like give people more variety and options for when they're adding these like into their life more regularly. So I'm excited for next year, new creations. But yeah, we're about to launch those this end of this week. So they'll be available. This is going to go live later, but they'll be all available in the new year.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
going to be incredible for like a little holiday, post-holiday reset. And one thing I do want to know
Yeah.
is so rare about the containers and everything and how intentional and eco-conscious everything is. And like from a toxin perspective, like when I first got the reset, I was like, finally, someone with glass bottles who like understands that, yeah, it's going to be a higher shipping cost, but it's so important to have some of the, these liquids and just everything in glass versus plastic.
Yeah.
Like your really intentionality with all your certifications, like it's so important, so important for bone broth to be organic. And like for all of these certifications to be in check, and your broths are like of the highest quality, and your packaging really, really intentional and eco-conscious. So I just wanted to shout that out. That is something that I was like,
Thank you.
finally.
Yeah, it's been something that I've really stuck to, and we're going to keep that option available. And we're also exploring another alternative packaging at the same time because, I think it's just going to allow us to reach more people. And there's, a positive to anybody getting their hands on bone broth. And the downside of the glass is like that it does drive up the price point. You're right. We're working to create something that's just as wonderful for people that like want another option too. So there's a lot of new stuff in the works next year. I'm excited to share more.
Amazing. Is there anything that we should be looking for when it comes to like broths or just like what we're consuming right now in that like world? Is there any certain certification? I mean, obviously we know that OWL Venice is like top shelf.
Honestly, I think with the certifications mean less these days. I think there's a lot of people that choose not to do it because they can be really expensive. There's been a huge shift in the beef industry as well, and it's almost impossible to get organic certified beef. So we've switched to a source that's grass fed and grass finished that upholds the same standards but doesn't have the certification. So we've recently switched our beef, and I think it's like boils down to like looking for brands you can trust and reading the ingredients. I think one thing for bone broth is a lot of the times if you see like in parentheses the water and chicken, usually that's like a rehydrated broth. So there are a lot of broths that are like manufactured in a lab out there, and it can be hard to tell what's what because there are ways to like make certain claims, even if it's like we're learning more and more about this as we're researching other packaging alternatives and how other people are doing things. Like I feel like it wasn't even until recently I realized how unique and special it is that we're doing what we're doing. But yeah, I think above above all, it's just finding brands you can trust and trusting yourself. Like your body is going to know when you feel like good about something or when you're turned off by something, and just being able to like be quiet enough to listen. And yeah.
That's like something that I feel like all of us can take away. It's like slowing down, doing less, and like reconnecting to our bodies so we can just listen because our bodies hold so much wisdom. Our guts hold so much wisdom.
Oh yeah. We always know. I think every woman, like when anything happens, no, knew like something in me was saying no. Like when we run it, and I've ignored and not listened enough times to know that like when the downfall comes, there's always that reminder. Yeah, like deep down in there, I did hear something that I chose to ignore.
Yeah. We always know. Are there any ways that you particularly connect with your intuition?
I feel like I've always just had a very strong intuition. It's just that sometimes my belief in and love for others overrides that. So it's like learning to trust myself above all
else. And like, it doesn't make me mean, inconsiderate or whatever. Like, I think that like people pleasing pressure and empathy for others and desire, my personal desire can sometimes override that voice inside too. Like learning to differentiate, am I like trying to appease somebody, or do I just like want this so bad that I am not like seeing this clearly, really getting to know yourself and how you respond and react to certain things, and knowing the difference between a response and a reaction.
That was so good. Yeah, I keep on reconnecting with like human design. And I wonder if you're a gut. Do you know if your gut is your
I'm a
authority?
generator.
You're a generator. So gut authority, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
ruled
think
by your
so.
gut.
Like, I think
Okay.
it's like always like things coming to me and not like seeking outwards to like waiting for things to come.
Yeah.
I think
It's
it's a generator thing.
yeah. I'm a projector. And so I'm like waiting for the invitation and a sacral authority. But what you're saying is just so powerful about just not outsourcing our power and like really listening to our body and getting to know ourselves. And I feel like this genuinely, like, I'm not just saying this, like, this past summer, when I did this reset was the first time in months that I had felt like a reclamation in my power because I felt so deeply in tune with my body. Like, it was just,
Yeah.
like, such a beautiful experience, and I'm so excited to see what you do, and I definitely need to get this gut reset because I'm like, my something is going on internally, and my probiotic is math. That's a whole different podcast episode, but we'll have to have you back
Yeah.
to go over some of these other, new laws because you have so much.
Yeah, I would love that. This has been a really fun conversation, and you truly get it. So,
That. So
yeah.
before we hop off, a couple of quick fire questions, a handful of quick
Yep.
fire questions. Okay. So first,
Got it.
how are you slowing down and resacreding the little things in life?
I think just being more intentional about on planning my days and my weeks and not being afraid to like push things off. I think sometimes it's like I like get stuff done and schedule it all, and I end up like with an overwhelming schedule. Being really like mindful of, like what things need to happen now and what things can wait for later instead of trying to get it all done now.
Yeah. What are you currently doing to learn and grow right now?
Learn and grow right now. I starting to read again, trying to make some set aside some more time for reading.
What are you reading right
Book
now?
is The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control.
I mean, that resonates so deeply with me right now, as I mentioned, was wedding planning. And that was
Mhm.
a journey of surrendering for releasing control and like embracing imperfection, like
Yeah.
coloring outside the lines, if you will. So I think
Yeah. Like, apparently all different types of perfectionists. So I'm in the beginning of the book right now, but it's kind of like breaking down like what types of perfectionists they are and like which one you might be.
oh, that's fascinating. We'll have to link it in the show notes. I feel like it will resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, my friend is reading it now, so we're like going back and forth, and it's interesting because like I pegged myself as one type of perfectionist, and she was like, "Really? I thought you were this one," and I was like, "Wait a minute, maybe I am." I don't know. So it's like read it with a friend and get, or maybe your husband, and
Oh,
get that some perspective.
that's dangerous territory. Okay, two more questions. What is one thing you wish people knew about you?
I feel like sometimes in groups I come across not as warm, but I think I'm just shy or like social anxiety. Yeah.
And last but not least, you already touched on this. What can we expect from you growing forward? Anything else personally, professionally?
No more kids for right now personally, but professionally, like a lot of birthing, innovation, new product happening there. So I'm excited to be creating back in that realm again.
We love it. We love it. Love to see it. I'm excited to dive deeper into all of these new programs and like product extensions. I feel like you really do make magic, and I'm excited for to like scale a little bit, maybe to the East Coast and like putting that out.
Yeah, New York's definitely on our list of places for next year.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
all the LA wellness enthusiasts have been keeping you there. And I'm like, it's time.
Yes, for
Well,
sure.
well, thank you so, so much for being here. This was an absolute joy, and we'll have to have you back.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to talk with you. And yeah, anytime, happy to come back.
Amazing.